I'm laughing at it now, but I tell you what, when you're getting canceled and the world's coming down on you, it wasn't so funny, but I don't know why I'm giddy about it now.
You are now listening to the Savage Marketer Podcast with Jeff J. Hunter. Are you ready for a show with no fluff, no BS, and savage marketing strategies from the best in the game? Then it's time to join the community at savagemarketer.com and gear up for another podcast episode. Here's your host, Jeff J. Hunter.
All right, Savages, I'm here with Gene Ho, and we're going to have a fun talk today. Boy, I should have been recording everything we talked about before. But today's episode, we're going to talk about how a famous photographer, the guy who I'm on the call with right now, has risen to fame, has done amazing things, had camera companies send him equipment just so they could say that he used their equipment, and he had articles written about him in magazines with his photography, but he made a very fatal mistake. He accepted a job from one of the most famous, if not the most talked about president of all time, except for maybe Abraham Lincoln, Donald J. Trump.
I'm laughing at it now, but I tell you what, when you're getting canceled and the world's coming down on you, it wasn't so funny, but I don't know why I'm giddy about it now. I guess
Well,
it's just
yeah, it's definitely not a laughing matter, but I think that with today's situation with cancel culture, and we have Gina Carano from Star Wars getting canceled, we've got just it feels like everywhere you go, like it does. Here's the crazy part for you guys listening in, okay? And this isn't what the whole topic's going to be about. This is going to be an overcoming story. This is going to be about how to leverage your experience and your past to drive at growth for your life and your company. And we're going to talk about that. But we have to talk about the elephant in the room, the giant elephant in the room, which is here's Gene Ho, a liberal who literally was featured in magazines. And I want to talk about that. How the heck did you even start out from your career to this job offer for Trump's campaign?
I was a photographer before I met Trump for 25 years. So if you can imagine me, 30 years old, 2 homes, 3 cars, 2 of them which were Lexuses. I had a stretch black limousine with my own driver at 30 years old. And I was like being a rock star. I remember days doing weddings. I would party all night. My limo driver would throw me in the back of a limo, and then we'd be off to Atlanta, do a job there, and then sleep all the way back. I mean, it was quite a run. Had a very large photography company. Like you said, or I mentioned, photography companies would give me their equipment just so they could say that Gene Ho was using their equipment. I had podcasts with 500,000 views. Podcast training photographers, and in the United States, it was maybe at the time 50,000 professional photographers, and so you have podcasts with 500,000 views on them. So it was just a interesting life being a photographer and servicing really celebrities and people around the country.
And you've been a huge advocate for gay rights, LGBT rights.
Yes.
You didn't. I think you said that you even have an LGBT nanny that raised your kids, right?
Yes. I was a champion for LGBT rights. My company would sponsor events, so we would have drag shows, and it would be like drag show, whatever pageant sponsored by Gene Ho Photography. I had a nanny that raised my children from birth, that was LGBT. So I was very much a liberal, and the toast of many people, because I was there and I was right in the middle of everything. It was a very fast life. So
So let's talk. This is a perfect transition. So how the heck did it happen? Like, I know for a fact, a man of your reputation, you didn't send your application to Trump. How did that even happen?
All right. So, Jeff, a magazine hired me out to do a magazine hired me to do a photo shoot at this event. And I didn't know what it was. It was called the Tea Party. Okay. So it was the Tea Party. Ben Carson was there. Everyone's freaking out. Ben Carson's there. I didn't know who he was. Ted Cruz was there. And the only one that I knew of that was there was Donald Trump. So I get there to do my job. And because a lot of people know me because of my photography, Trump's team was like, oh, Gene Ho is here. Gene Ho is here. And Donald Trump was like, who the hell is Gene Ho? So they said, listen, well, let us introduce you to Mr. Trump. So they introduced me to him, went on his airplane. And I tell you what, Jeff, I like the guy. I mean, this was before he officially ran for president, but I really liked him. And so worked out, started doing photography for him. And it lasted 2 years until the 2016 election. So I spent 2 years with him.
That's crazy. So it all started from an event you were hired by a magazine to go shoot for.
Right. And they said, you know what? Join. They said, join us for the day. And I was like, okay. It was wonderful. Wow.
And then you met, Ben Carson and whatever. And of course you go there, you're the celebrity photographer and everyone's like, oh, there's Gene, right? So then of course, Trump and his massive ego, he was probably like, hey, who's this guy? If he's in a room of people and they know somebody, he's probably and not capping on Trump, but I feel like from what I've seen from him over the years is that Trump is a guy who he wants to know the best. He wants to surround himself with the best.
I will tell you this much. When I showed up into the room, I had my choice of who, if I wanted to, that is, I had my choice of who to be a part of. I could have been, I knew the people with Ted Cruz. I met them. Ben Carson was there. Impressed me greatly. But, Donald Trump's people said, you know what? Hey, be his photographer for the day. So that's how it all started. But wow. Now that I think about it, it could have been, Trump just being savage about it. Says, you know what? If everyone wants that guy, then I want him first. So
see, I think he's a very savage marketer himself, One day I'll get him on the show. You watch. Yes. But it's funny because whether you love him or you hate him, you know him, right? And I think
and you know what? And whether you love or you hate him, we as business persons, could we not stop for a second and think, okay, I hate the guy, but what can I learn from him? There's so much you can learn from this man. It's incredible.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I always thought it was funny that Trump was like a hero to everybody with Celebrity Apprentice, but as soon as he ran for president, he was the enemy of the state, right?
I know. I remember early on that we would go places and traffic would stop just no matter where he was walking, and everyone loved him. And to be honest, I really thought that a lot of people still loved him. I just thought, a topic for another day, I just thought that the media skewed it a certain way.
Yeah. Well, we definitely know the media is great at skewing things, right? So that's a great segue. So now I'd love to talk about how you took this job and things changed pretty drastically.
Yes. To be honest, it was a time during this period, this 2-year period, that I was part of the silent majority, because I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'm working for Trump, but you know what? It's a job. It's just a job, And so during that time, I spent a lot of time hiding the truth, so to speak, and not being public with it. Because, we're business people. We do fear retribution for your political beliefs, even your religious beliefs. So
hold on now hold on. You've done skipped on me here. Okay, because now you're saying that you magically became the silent majority. So if that didn't just happen, you were hanging around Trump. Something must have changed in your mind. Like, what was it that like just made you change? You probably were being told by people that Trump is some bad guy at this point, right?
Yes, and actually that is a beautiful point, and I'm really glad that you held my feet to the fire with this, because you know what? here's the thing. There is such a thing as keeping quiet because ultimately we're like, well, we got to provide for our families. We got to do, we have to sit on the fence, so to speak. But there was one thing that changed my mind in particular with Donald Trump, and it has to do with my past. As a photographer that reached a certain level, there was also a certain amount of hate for me. People jealous of me, people not liking what I was accomplishing in the photography world. So I was already used to this whole notion that people could hate me without ever really meeting me. Like every time they see me like on a magazine ad or something, like, oh, I just can't stand that guy, but they don't really know me, nor have they spent any time with me. So when I saw the media doing that to Donald Trump, I saw Donald Trump behind the scenes. He is a stand-up guy. He's a good guy. He treats people around him with respect. Very tough boss, which is also what I appreciated. At the time, I had 25 photographers working under me. So I could really appreciate the difference between a tough boss and the personal level of a person. And when I saw them attacking Donald Trump, it drew me even closer to him. And that is why during this time, he won me over. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired of sitting back. I'm going to tell everybody about this. And so the day before Election Day, this is in 2016, I changed my Facebook profile to public and just told the world, you know what? I am supporting this man, Donald Trump. I saw him behind the scenes and I'll stand behind him.
That must have been really hard.
Big mistake. Big mistake.
Yeah, that was your first mistake.
First mistake.
So, but I think this is a very interesting thing, because now this is the part, and this is, by the way, for those of you listening, this is why I wanted to have Gene on the show, because I think there's so many lessons that we as entrepreneurs can take from this, especially with our livelihood and how under attack you can be. And I don't care if you're a Republican or Democrat or you're a libertarian crazy bastard like me or whatever the heck you are or believe. It's crazy to think that there are people that will disagree with you so much that they're willing to try to destroy your business.
Yeah. It was not good. It was not good.
So what was the first thing that happened after you made this announcement, when you came out of the closet as a Trump supporter?
My wife and I had letters, and it was made even worse because it was the day before the election statement, I support Donald Trump, and then the election day, the next morning, the realization from liberal America that Donald Trump indeed won. So it all started with letters from my very liberal photographers, some that I've known for 10 years, 15 years, working for me during this time, that says, you know what, that I treated as family, to get letters from them or emails from them saying, you know what, I'm just going to finish what we have, my weddings, my jobs with you, and then I'm out. Don't talk to me during this time. We're not friends. I'm just going to finish it and go. I mean, wow. Just stuff like that. So that was the first, the collapse of people working for me. Some stayed, some were really good and stuck around for a while to help me get through it. But the collapse of people working for me, also the best way I can describe it is a boycott. And a lot of people say, how could you boycott a wedding photographer? I'm a wedding photographer, really, at the end of the day. And it's a matter of going to preferred vendors where we work and them sending someone in to say, can I see your preferred vendors list? Gene Ho is on there. He's a racist, isn't it? Doesn't he support the bigot? So
here we have Gene Ho, LGBT champion, obviously not a white supremacist. For those of you listening to the podcast show right now, if you didn't guess from his name, Gene Ho, he is definitely an Asian American. Okay, and so now you're a racist, homophobic bigot within one day.
Yeah, and it was devastating because the morning of, I was like, the world's ahead of me. I'm the president's photographer. I got this business that I retained throughout that time. I mean, it's funny because if it was like I declared early on in the beginning, I could see my photography studio start to diminish. But it was just in one day. In one day, everything turned around, and I thought that day would end up being like the best day of my life, and then it just all started to fall apart.
Wow. And pretty much that was the cancel culture before it was cool.
Yeah.
Right. So, yeah. Wow. So let's talk about how we as marketers and business owners can learn from this. So, if you are in an industry that is filled with people that are very politicized, right? And I would say that you are technically in the industry of entertainment, right? Like, yeah. Entertainment industry, which we know is dominated by Amazon, Netflix, Google, YouTube, Facebook, which, by the way, all happen to be the largest donors to defeat Trump. So now you're already working against the system. So if you were thinking back, like, let's just go into the time machine. Let's go back, like, knowing what you know now, what would you have done on that day before Trump's election?
Now, to say that it didn't cross my mind to say, listen, I really wish I would have went back in time and just kept my mouth shut. I could imagine myself saying that, but to be honest, and through the transition of it all, I sleep very well at night. To be honest, before, did I always sleep well? No, I didn't. And I sleep very well at night, knowing that, for our country, for my children's sake, for everything, that I'm going to do what I feel was the right thing to do. So is there regrets to it? No, not at all. I feel proud of myself. I feel like my children can look at me with dignity. But at the same token, to think about it and say, well, gee, would you go back in time? The answer is no, but I'm not saying that it never crossed my mind that, I wish I would have done that, because it was a very, very tough time.
That's what I was looking for, because there's a lot of times where, I think that, and I try to do this to my audience. I teach, the reason why this is the Savage Marketers, because I feel like part of your own self is being true and knowing yourself. And I feel like polarization is seen as a bad thing, but in reality, I think there's nothing more defining than taking a stand. And one thing that I really loved about your story here, and whether you're a Trump supporter or not out there, I'll just be straight. I didn't vote for Trump either time. And it's not because of Trump personally. It's just because I don't fit well within the Republican platform right now. I'm more of a libertarian. I feel like, but I see the character that you're talking about. You're taking a stand saying, hey, look, I've worked with Trump. I'm with him behind the scenes. Some of the photography that I've seen that you've posted are from very intimate meetings that you've taken photos of, and you've been in those meetings with world leaders, and you know how he handles his business. And when you see the news attacking him, you're like, hey, this isn't the Trump that I know, right?
Exactly. And ultimately, it goes back to how people have treated me. I'm no stranger to people that don't know me, have a very definitive opinion on how bad I am or whatever. And so am I going to stand up for somebody that just happens to be the president of the United States at the time? Am I going to go stand up for that person when I see the same thing happen to me with other people? So I will stand up. I will stand up for someone like that.
So I guess the moral of the story is stand up, but you got to be ready for the consequences.
That is for sure. That is for sure.
So let's talk about the transition, because now you guys that are listening in, this is where we're really excited, because see, he's been able to take a very huge positive that turned into a negative, that turned back into a positive, and now Gene is actually making a real strong name for himself in the community, and he's really made it a mission to be an advocate for just freedom in general and freedom of speech. And how to take a moral stand for your own beliefs, especially against cancel culture, since you've been a victim of it quite a few times now.
Yes. And, the thing is, ultimately, because we are all entrepreneurs, I know that as an entrepreneur, I can succeed in photography. You could be an entrepreneur and succeed in a different way. Maybe you create these, parts, or you can, whatever you do, ultimately we are, as an entrepreneur, we're promoting ourselves. So did my photography company get canceled? Yes. I had 25 photographers right now. And right now I have two, me and my wife. We're the only employees. You should have saw the tax filing that we just did. It was just the funniest thing because it went from all these pieces of paper of like this person, W-2, 1099, all this stuff. We went from that to me handwriting on a piece of paper because it's my wife and I. So we got that canceled. But you know what? Ultimately, at the end of the day, you know what? And I'll challenge anyone with this. This is a good thing for you. All you entrepreneurs out there, if today we took away your means of living, let's say this. Let's say you're an ice cream man. We take away your ice cream truck. We take away, your means of making money that way. Could you start up with something new and succeed? Of course you could. I mean, we know this as an ice cream man is not only the ice cream you're selling, but is your ability to choose a route and do the route as an ice cream man the same way so people know, hey, Thursday at 4 o'clock, the ice cream man's going to be here, so don't eat that before dinner or whatever. As an ice cream man, if that's your job, you teach your employees or yourself as an entrepreneur, say, listen, when you go down there to every house, write down their name. So when you see them say, hey, Joe, are your kids coming out? Is Larry coming out? That's how we do it. So if you're an entrepreneur, no matter what you are selling or what you're doing, you should be able to succeed in any realm.
And now Gene he's got a very successful podcast. He has an incredible presence on TikTok where he talks a lot about his own experience as Trump's campaign photographer. He's got almost, at this point, when you guys hear this, he's probably got 75,000 followers plus. And
that was in 2 months. It was in 2 months' time we built it.
Yeah. And 619,000 likes. And by the way, I'm going to share you guys a little bit of a secret. I leverage TikTok to get in front of amazing people like Gene. When I see somebody that I really like and I think has a really strong message and I want to give them a voice, and it's a win-win because I'm like, hey, Gene, I'd love to just share your story with my audience because I think a lot of people will learn from it. Gene's probably over there thinking, okay, right? Like
jackpot for me, right? Win-win for me.
Yeah, exactly. And for me too, this is a great opportunity for networking and getting to know people. And, I've had some really incredible people on my show, a lot of people that don't agree with me, a lot of people that do agree with me. And I think that you are a perfect example of that. You're not the person that I normally would have on my show, but here's a guy who within 2 months has 75,000 followers on TikTok. He's literally creating a whole brand new, I guess you can say, vision of what you're going to be doing in the future, right? I mean, Are you still a photographer? Like, what's the business life of Gene now?
It's funny because I just was the opening speaker. If you see my TikToks, basically I'm telling stories about Donald Trump. It's pretty funny. Some of it's good, some of it's nice, but. So I just got done. I opened for General Michael Flynn at an event in Florida.
No way.
Oh yeah. This was just a week ago. So they asked me that, and then someone asked me. I'm speaking in front of him again in May, and then now there's another one in April. And it's like, hey Gene, would you like to come down to Oklahoma and open for Flynn again? I was like, yeah, it's wonderful. But it's just amazing. You know what? All these things that are happening is basically having a passion for what you do. And it's funny because my wife was like, I said to my wife, hey, we're going to go to Oklahoma because General Flynn's going to be there, Sidney Powell, and I'm going to be giving a talk. And she goes, oh, good. I just want to make sure they weren't hiring you as a photographer. So it was funny that I went through this transition where for a while, people would ask me last year, they said, hey, Gene, Pence is going to be at this place. Could you come? And then I had to ask him, is it to speak or to be a photographer? And he said, to be a photographer. And I was like, oh, man. So it was just interesting that I still love photography. I have a passion for it. But my passion right now is really speaking and getting the message out.
You know what? That's a beautiful thing. I think that that's such a strong lesson for us as entrepreneurs, because I think we all have a position that we kind of pivot, and there's a transitional period. And especially, let's go back to your ice cream man analogy, right? Let's say that you're the ice cream guy, and this is literally a very similar story to you. Like, let's just be truthful here. You're the ice cream man. Trump's campaign says, "Hey, we want ice cream." Right? And then Trump's like, "Hey, you know what? Can you personally make me some ice cream?" Right? And then
he's a good ice cream maker.
You like that?
Very good.
Yeah. Your Trump impersonation is much better.
We will have ice cream back in some form. It's
going to be huge.
It's going to be huge. Good ice cream. Best ice cream in the world.
So here now you're stuck in this funny transition that obviously you're still going through, from becoming behind the scenes taking the photos and now being the person in front getting photos taken of.
Yeah, it was just funny because for the 2020 election, I was with the campaign, but I was photographing Donald Trump Jr. And there was times where I was photographing them, and I was like, oh, I want to be up there speaking, but they have me as a photographer, so it's all good.
I think right now, especially with this new narrative with the whole Asian hate thing and all sorts of stuff that's going on, and we don't have to get into the politics, but I just think it's so important to have really strong, Asian voices that stand up and say, we don't want to be grouped into this victim mentality.
Exactly.
We don't need a yellow stripe on the LGBTQI plus AB whatever flag.
Well, it was very interesting too, and this is a great thing for entrepreneurs, people marketing. And I know you as a content creator feel the same way when it comes to this, but whenever you're building content, the bitching moment of content creators is like, oh, what's the algorithm? Oh, I'm getting shadow banned. Oh, what's going on? And really, I felt the same way when I was doing this, but ultimately at the end of the day, all you could do is concentrate on yourself and what product that you're giving out. So it's the same thing. Not everything's going to be fair, but if you're running a business, you're an entrepreneur, you're marketing, just concentrate on your best product and bring in that best product out. And if you could do that, you just let the other things that you have no control over. I have no idea about shadow banning and algorithms, but you just go out there and put good content or get a good product out there every single time, and things will fall into place.
That is so brilliant. So brilliant. One of the things that I believe it's interesting because all the marketing in the world can't help if you have a bad product.
Yeah.
Right? Like, matter of fact, the easiest way to market things is to sell an amazing product and let other people talk about it. Right?
Yes. Yeah, it's true.
And I think that that's why we connected, because, I saw one video of you and it was your story talking about how you got canceled. And I remember seeing the passion in what you do. And I said, wow, this guy is a really special speaker and you have something so unique to offer. And I think that your message as an entrepreneur and crossing over the political line is such a strong topic right now, because we're seeing people, with the whole thing that happened with Parler, right? Like, Parler, here's an app that doesn't censor its people. It has no censoring at all. And people are complaining that it doesn't have censoring. And then they complain to Amazon, and Amazon pulls the server. So now the app's gone. and then Apple pulls it from the iTunes store. And there's just so many crazy things that, we need to be aware of, because, I tell you the truth, Gene, I know that the biggest ethical and moral dilemma that we face moving forward as a society, as a free nation, is on the internet. It is about the censorship and freedom of information that flows on the internet and who controls that. Because see, it used to be the polling stations, it used to be the churches, it used to be the communities, it used to be the streets. But the streets, they're not where the action's at anymore. It's online.
Yeah, and I'll be honest,
people
yeah,
that control that online.
I seen it firsthand with TikTok, because I'll be honest, TikTok was never my first place to be at. But it really doesn't matter where I want it. Where are the people? And so the people are there. And I've been on TikTok 2 months. It's been wonderful. And, no matter what your niche is, your genre, there's a group of people there that will find you. And it's just amazing that has been such a valuable tool for me.
Okay, so this is where we're going to end it. The TikTok phenomenon. So for those of you who know me, know that I've blown up on TikTok. I've gotten over 100 million views. I've gotten some videos that were literally the most viewed videos on TikTok for the last year, September 2nd and September 3rd of last year. I had the most viral videos on TikTok. It was insane. I think I was getting 20 million views a day, something like that.
Wow.
And the crazy part is, all I did was sit in my computer chair, which I'm not even in right now, and I used someone else's audio that said, now that I'm an adult, I make adult money. And now I buy shit like this. And it's basically me in a reclining video game chair. And it wasn't even anything, it was just, but what it did was it drew out the fantasies and thoughts of other people, right? It transported them to a dream reality they might have had. Because I think most people have thought about how cool would it be to sit in one of these gaming chairs and watch your movie or play your games, right?
Absolutely.
So now the same thing happens with Gene. Gene is transporting people that have, by the way, I noticed in your videos, you also have a bunch of haters too, which is great.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I don't think you've made it. And this is funny that I think you and I both can agree that in your professional career as a photographer and now moving into your speaking career, I think that you haven't made it until you got haters.
You know what? I count them as manure on the ground that raises the algorithms. So it's all good.
It's almost like Trump knew from back in the day. He says, whether you love me or hate me, you know me. Well, in this case, it's I don't care if you love me or hate me as long as you're commenting.
Yes. Please comment, give a like, whatever.
As a content creator like yourself, I have an 8-year-old son. And it's interesting, at 5 years old, this is 3 years ago, I used to do a lot of Facebook Lives. I don't do them quite as much because I'm on TikTok now. But when I did my Facebook Lives, my son one time busted into my office during a Facebook Live, and he comes up in front of my camera. I'm holding my phone, and he says, hi guys, my name is Jesse, and you're listening to my dad, whose name is also Jeffrey Jesse. And if you like this video, go ahead and click the thumbs up button. And if you don't like this video, just use one of the sad faces like this. And I was mind blown because I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's probably seen this a million times for me doing it. And he thinks this is normal. Right?
I tell you what, it's been what a world that we've become living in. I mean, we're communicating with each other, and people are getting comfortable with communicating with each other online. So it's how it is right now.
So guys, I want to close off with a funny story, because you're not the only person that I know who's got a chance to hang out with Trump. I want to do a shout out to Deborah Driggs. You might even know her. She's actually a Playboy Playmate. Funny enough, she actually was on the cover. No, she wasn't on the cover. Excuse me. She was the what's the fold out? Like the featured girl in Playboy. Okay. And her magazine has now gone off the shelves, and it's actually worth more now today than it ever has in the past, because she was on one of the very few episodes that had a man on the front of the Playboy issue. And guess who that man was?
It was Trump, right?
It was Donald J. Trump.
Wow.
And she was the featured model inside that Playboy episode. And funny story, she told me that when he was there doing the photography with her, that afterwards she was a college kid, like most Playboy girls are. There was a college kid, and he said that, hey, you know what? I'd like to, take you out on the town to New York. Let's hang out. And she said that, you know what? I actually have a midterm I have to study for, so I'm probably going to not. But it's funny because I spoke with her not too long ago, and she says, thinking back to where he is today, I probably should have went on the date. Anyway, I think it's funny because most of the people that I know who have met Trump have said amazing things about him, and that he was very open and honest and had a genuine care for people. What I'd love for you to do, just to end this off, is for anyone who's an entrepreneur and maybe they're worried about the political fallout from coming out per se, what advice would you give people when they're faced with this decision?
You know what? I think what we all are afraid of is the uncertainty. Will people boycott me? Will this happen? Will that happen? Ultimately speaking, people will be drawn to you by you making a stand for whatever. And I get it. I really do get it. Like, no one really wants to, get involved with some of these things. But really, do we want to have a reputation, no matter what we do, as someone that's wishy-washy and in between? You don't have to make everything a career-defining change. But at the same time, people really do respect people that can stand up for what they believe, one way or the other. If I have friends that are still staunch liberals, I'm on the right. But ultimately, at the end of the day, do we really want to be that fence sitter, really? Just think about it.
That is amazing advice, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, Gene. For those of you listening in on the show, make sure you come into the Savage Marketer Facebook group, where I'm going to have video clips. You can see how beautiful Gene is. He actually has hair, unlike me, sitting across from him, bald as ever. Guys, if you're listening to Spotify, Stitcher or iTunes or Google Play, wherever you're listening to, make sure you go to savagemarketer.com. Go ahead and type your email address in there, and you'll have access to not only this episode, but all the amazing episodes on there to learn how to do some savage marketing for your business and your brand. Until next time, guys, stay savage.
Thank you for listening to the Savage Marketer Podcast. Join the Savage Marketer community today to get exclusive access to Jeff J. Hunter and his guests, as well as more Savage Marketer strategies. Log on to savagemarketer.com and subscribe today for more episodes.